Welcome to Craft Chat Chronicles, the go-to podcast for tips on crafting best-selling fiction. Here at Craft Chat Chronicles, we bring you expert interviews, insights, and tips on writing, publishing, and marketing. Join the conversation and embark on a new chapter in your writing journey. For workshops, show notes, and more information, visit jdmyall.com. That's jdmyall.com.
In Season 3, Episode 12 of Craft Chat Chronicles, we chat with New York Times bestselling author Dhonielle Clayton. Dhonielle has given us titles like The Marvelers, Tiny Pretty Things, which is now a Netflix series, and Blackout, which she co-wrote. And it will soon be on Netflix as well because it's been optioned for film and TV by the Obamas. Yes, those Obamas. Dhonielle is one of the leaders of Authors Against Banned Books. She is the leader of We Need Diverse Books, and she's a champion of diversity in publishing. She gives us tons of craft and writing advice here. She talks about the process of having your book optioned for film and TV. She talks about her book packaging companies that she owns, Cake Creative and Electric Postcard Entertainment. And she gives some insight on what it's like working with a book packager like herself, and discusses how writing packaged books and work for hire helps many authors break into the publishing industry. It's an excellent conversation, and we were fortunate enough to have some Drexel alumni and some friends join us for it. So let's get chatty. Season 3, Episode 12 of Craft Chat Chronicles. So can you tell us a little bit about your publishing journey?
Oh gosh. I failed into this. So I wanted to be a doctor, and I went to college thinking I was going to be a doctor. Was pre-med, failed chemistry, got a big F completely. And then I was miserable being away from home. My dad was like, stop coming home on the weekends. You need to stay there, go to the bookstore, get yourself a book, get yourself together, grow up. And I did. And I started rereading the books that I loved as a kid. And that led me to think, well, maybe I can be a teacher or a librarian. And I was for many years. And then when I was a teacher and librarian, so in East Harlem, New York, my students hated books. They hated reading, which hurt my feelings so deeply as a bookworm. And then they told me because they didn't see themselves. So they saw characters that looked like them that were teachable lessons about the painful parts of their backgrounds, instead of exciting heroes and heroines that save the world or fall in love or get to slay the dragon. And I got mad. And when I get mad, I get busy. And so then I was like, well, maybe I can write some of these books. So then I started trying to write and break into a very closed door industry. And it took me like 8 manuscripts and like 240 some rejections to get my first yes. And then here I am, but it was just because I was really stubborn. So it was a very long road of no's. And I like to tell people that I failed into this because I just kept trying and kept trying and kept trying until someone said yes. I just kept writing different books and trying to show the industry that you can have a book that is high concept, very commercial, but it features kids or teens or people from the margins as the central cast, and it can still be read by everyone. So that's the quick short story of the career, I think.
Love that. So when you got that first agent, how did the call go?
So the first agent, because the third agent is the one that sold my first book. So the first agent, I got a master's in children's literature, and I had to write a thesis. And I queried my thesis, and this young agent at Writer's House was like, oh my God, I love this. This is so great. I would love to sign you. And it was like, what? I've gotten so many no's. And she signed me. And then it was 2008, and the bottom of the world, stock market crashed. And there was an editor at Scholastic that loved the book, that wanted it, but she got let go and she got fired during that. And so that book just didn't make it. And that agent at the time, she was like, this is too hard. I have to quit agenting because the stock market crashed and I need money. I need to go something else. And so then I had to go back out there. And so she left agenting, and then I started at the new school getting my MFA and trying to figure out what I was going to do next. This is several years later. And I was interning for a literary agent, and he gave me a referral to my second agent, who I was with for about 3 years, but she wouldn't send out any material. Everything had to be perfect. She made me rewrite my books from scratch 4 or 5 times. And at a certain point, I was like, you're sucking the life out of my work, and I can't do this. You have to take a risk. You have to take a chance and send something out. And so I parted ways with her. I don't remember what year it was, but it was like a June. And then I got another agent in August, and then she sold my first book in September. So it was a rocky road to getting the agent. But that first agent call was like, oh my gosh, I've made it. I hadn't made it. I was many years from 2008 to the first agent that sold 2013, nothing. Starts and stops, ups and downs. So it was a long road.
Then do you think the tenacity, the stubbornness is what helped you?
Yes, I wanted it really badly. And more than that, I think when you're a mission-driven person and mission-driven work, it keeps you on the horse longer, right? Like I knew that I wanted to make books for young people to read that centered their experiences and gave them something exciting so that they could turn into the next generation of readers and writers. But I also knew that publishing had a problem, and it had a huge problem with censoring and marginalizing so many writers that I figured, and I thought, I was like, is anyone going to do anything about it? And how can I help build a table that more people can sit at so that we have more books on the shelves? And so I think it's tenacity. I think it's mission. I think it's the way that I'm raised. My parents' vision of success is not you getting to the top of the mountain. My mom's sort of like, well, who did you bring with you? So when you get into that room, it's not about, oh, yay, you made it. It's like, no, who did you bring with you into that room? Who's also going to make it because you made it? And so that's the type of family I'm from the Deep South. So I knew that I wasn't just going to be a solo writer writing my books in my room by myself, that I had to do something bigger than that.
Love that. Love that.
As a tenacity, I'm just really stubborn.
Love that. This is so weird, us doing this again.
I know.
I met Dhonielle through interviewing her. So yay.
I love it. It's full circle.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
For those I think you guys all know, but for those of you who don't know, I write for a company, Electric Postcard. So let me slide into that question. So how did you get into book packaging?
So remember when I told you that I was interning for a literary agent? When I first moved to New York, trying to learn the publishing business, trying to see sort of like, how can I leave my stamp on something? How can I really like help with the diversity movement within children's books? The agent that I worked for, he represented a packager. And I was in my library at the time, stocking books, buying books. And I noticed that there were a lot of books that came out so quickly. And I was like, there's no way one writer could write all these books so fast. And so I discovered, oh, these books are packaged. There's many writers writing in this series. Oh, this is another way that writers can get work. And also I had been approached in my grad school program to see if I wanted to write for one of these companies. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. And then once I studied what the packager that worked for the guy that the agent I was reading for, how they did it, I was like a little arrogant. I was like, I can do this better. And I can center marginalized people, and I could make sure they know what the heck's going on, like in publishing, and usher them through the process and try to make these sort of connections like a matchmaker. And I was like, this is, I think, my way of building a table since I have tons of ideas that I'll never be able to write. And that was like one of my second agent's biggest complaints with me. She said that I had too many ideas, like they were the kitchen sink, so much, too much going on. My imagination was too big. And I thought, oh, this is where I can funnel my imagination. That little kid who loved to read books, all she did was read books. I can take those ideas and give them to other people to write and hopefully then help them break into the industry faster than I did. So that's how Cake Creative and Electric Postcard Entertainment were born, just out of studying the children's book market and how a lot of books are made and trying to create right for hire opportunities and other ways of for marginalized writers to break into publishing and get their first taste, their first editor, their first deal, so that then they can go on and make even more deals.
Love that. Love that. So for somebody who hasn't done it, just describe the process in your words. Like you meet somebody today, how does the process usually go? Or is it usually through your submittable or?
Sure. I mean, sometimes I meet people in many ways, at conferences or during interviews or in places, but usually a writer will send a sample through the submittable for either Cake Creative, Electric Postcard, and we've got a big thing that we are launching this month called Chain Letter, which is a short fiction platform on Substack with horror and sort of spooky stories. And they send a sample that just demonstrates their voice, their line level work, and things like that. And then they fill out a whole questionnaire so we can get to know them, learn about their interests and all of those things, what they want to do. And they send us like a little cover letter that gives us a sense of who they are and what they've done in publishing and what kind of stories they want to write. And then we have a meeting with them and talk through their goals, their wishes, their hopes, what they're interested in, tropes, themes, topics. Do you want like vampires, werewolves, whatever, all those things. And then we go back and we take a look at the ideas that we have. And oftentimes I will make things for that writer that really showcase their voice and will really bring out what I think and what I see that they do best in a piece that I know is commercial and will sell because I've already talked to my agents about it. So a high concept story, and it kind of remixes all those things because what I want is for this book that a writer were to work on with me to sit alongside all of the other books that they have that they want to write. And so that it fits seamlessly into their body of work, into the canon that they're building. So after we do that, and then we send over a one pager, which is sort of an overview of the book, and it has the comp titles, the books that are like this title. It has the genre, it has the themes and topics, and it reads sort of like a book jacket copy for the book. And then we're like, okay, what do you think about this? And then we usually get on a phone call afterwards again to go through all the thoughts and feelings that the writer has about the overview. And then if they're like, yay, I want to do it. And like, can I change this character name or can I add this? Can we put this trope in? We do all of that. And then we get them signed up in the payment system and everything. And so at Cake and EPE, we do a percentage of advance. We also do royalties in perpetuity forever. And so like all of that's laid out. We do the tax paperwork, put you in our electronic system. You also get paid to write a sample for us, and we work on the first act of the book, and you get an outline and characters, and we do a big story call so that you can dive in and talk through all the things that you like or things that you want to change. It's kind of like having your own TV writer's room. It's fun. And then the writer starts working on that proposal, and they get to work with an editor who will take them through the process and make sure this sample is solid. And then once we go through those edits, and usually it's a few back and forth after we've gotten that full act, then we prepare for submission and we get mood board pictures and we make a very pretty package. And then they get linked up with one of my agents that I work with. And then it goes out on submission and then it sells. Hopefully, all the things. And then hopefully there's more than one editor that's excited about the project, and then you get to talk to those editors, and then you rank them for me, and we talk through your goals, because it's not just about the best editor for this single book or this series. It's about who do you feel like you could also sell your own work to, because the goal is that I'm making a introduction for you. I'm giving you this sort of using my own IP in order to bring you someone that wants to work with you, that then will buy the things that you're working on outside of the things you're working on with me. So that's always the hope and the dream. And it's been working out for so many of my writers, which makes me so happy. And so, and then we get started with the edits. The edit letter comes in and you get to talk to your editor, and there's usually a meeting and go back and forth and have a connection. So did I get everything? I think so.
You did.
I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but we're there through the whole process to deep dive every edit letter, to talk about the marketing plan, the cover, everything. We're right there as your sidekick, ushering you through and making sure everything goes well. I'm the bad guy, which makes it easy. You get to just sit back and relax and focus on the craft.
How many books have your company sold so far?
Oh, I think we're up to 100 now. I'm about to hit my 100th book, which is wild. Starting in 2011, and now it's 2025. It's just, I can't believe it. So I think I'm almost to 100. So I'll post an announcement at some point if I can get myself together. There's so many things to do all the time.
What makes a marketable book? Like I know you do a lot of high concept fiction.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a story high concept?
So I would say a high concept story is a story that has a plot engine, and it's something that you can pitch in one line or one or two lines that can really give you a sense of what the story is. So if I were to pitch my first book, Tiny Pretty Things, it's like Pretty Little Liars set in a ballet boarding school where three girls are willing to do whatever it takes to be the best. So you get setting, you get a competitive title that was very popular, that gives you a sense of the tone. It's a mystery, rotating points of view. That's what Pretty Little Liars was. Secrets, intrigue. You get that it's three protagonists, and you get that the theme is whatever it takes to be the best. So there might be some dastardly things going on. And so that high concept really is a less character-driven story, which you can still have great characters that are doing wonderful things, and you need that for a good commercial fiction property. But the plot is superstar of things. It's making sure that your reader is on a roller coaster, and that there's some high octane things going on. In some literary fiction, it's more internal, can be more about how the character is feeling and processing and its internal change. High concept stories are both, it's external change with the internal change along the way, but you need that external plot engine, I would say.
Hi, my name is Kaya Freitz, and I'm currently in the studio recording Heart's Gambit by J.D. Mayall. Chapter 1. Emma Baldwin. Harlem, 1943. When the moonlight hits the circus tents, they bleed. Ruby drops turn to rose petals before raining down on the audience. A symbol. That's all anybody wants. Something that feels bigger than them, no matter the city, no matter the time. Ma always said this when we were fortifying the fabric together, using our hands to imbue the crimson silk with our gifts. Something magical, something beautiful. And if we remind them that we're the best black circus on the circuit in the process, what's the harm? Oohs and ahs ripple as the crowd begins to file into the big top. They settle in their seats and prepare for the show as that bloody rain begins. Find Heart's Gambit wherever you get your audiobooks.
Love that, love that. Now we're going to dive into your approach to storytelling and craft.
Sure.
What makes a good protagonist?
Oh, I think a good protagonist is one that has three things. Has something that it wants. The protagonist needs to want something, but that should be different than what the protagonist actually needs, right? Because the protagonist might want to win $1 million, but what they need is different. They might want that because they grew up food insecure, or they grew up not having any money. So they are searching always for that kind of security, right? And then I think the third thing that a character needs is a bruise. And that bruise is linked to something bad that happened to them. It's their emotional wound that when you press it, it reacts, right? So it's the thing that makes them feel insecure. It's that fear of abandonment, right? Because maybe they were abandoned. And when you press on that, when you put them in a romantic relationship where their romantic interest, it looks like they're going to leave, it causes them to react in not great ways, which creates good fiction, right? Toxic or negative ways, or they are crying or upset, or they create drama, right? Like, I'm going to leave you before you leave me. It's the recipe for really good, juicy drama, because human beings, and we try to render them as characters, are flawed and messy. And we don't want to read a perfect person. A perfect person is boring. There's no story there, and there are no perfect people. So I would say those three things: making sure that your character has something that they want, but think about why they want it, and don't make it just random. Connect it to what they actually need on an emotional level, and then build a backstory to where there are a couple of crisis points that become their emotional bruise, their wound, that you're going to press on or get close to in the arc of your narrative, that cause them to act out of character or cause them to, do things they're not supposed to do, which creates great friction and drama.
What makes a good villain?
I love villains. I love villains more than I love
Me
heroes.
too.
Villains believe that they're the hero of their own story too. So they also need those three things. They also need something they want related to something that they need, and they have their own emotional wounds. And so, like, some of my favorite villains, when I go through and look at things, are also questioning something about humanity. So I have three favorite villains right now. They tend to change, but one is the Joker. The Joker is questioning rules, right? And his foil, thinking about your main protagonist, is Batman, who is rule-based and a rule follower. So when you think of creating your villain, think of that foil, but think of the foil and what they want and what they need and what their wounds are, right? The Joker is always questioning, why do we have to do these things? Why do we have to follow the rules? Who made the rules? Why? Who's in control? Are we being controlled? Those are human questions that I think make for really good conversation. And people label him as insane because he's asking these kinds of questions. And maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Another villain I love is Magneto from X-Men. And he is a very clear bruise that is activated by the central drama of X-Men, right? He is a Holocaust survivor, and he does not trust or like humanity, and he has seen the dark side of humanity. So therefore, he does not take anyone at their word, and his methods to keep people safe or keep himself safe are less than savory because they were done to him, right? So he is like a walking trauma, I think. And that's why I like him so much, because I can't argue with him. He's not wrong. His methods, like, let's not go and kill people and all those things, his methods are incorrect, but his desire for safety and his desire and his disillusionment with human beings is fundamentally correct based on his trauma and his emotional wound. And then the last one is from one of my favorite middle grade series, His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, Mrs. Coulter, who is a lady villain. I love a lady villain. And she, without spoiling anything, she is terrible and awful, but it's all related to her unresolved feelings around the box she's put in as a woman. And this box as, like, I'm not allowed to do these things. I'm not allowed to be this way. I'm supposed to only think about being a mother. And then thinking about her own mother, right? And so she's got a lot of trauma that causes her to make a lot of bad decisions. And so I really like her as a villain too.
Love that. Your books, like The Bells and the Marvelers, are known for their lush world building. What advice would you give authors on world building?
Oh man, so many things I would say in terms of world building. I think you need to do some work on thinking about how worlds function, right? We think about our world and think about your analog. All of your readers are going to come to your work with preconceived, filled in sort of mental schema of what things look like. So the words that you use build a visual portrait for your reader. And so you want to be very purposeful. If you're, for example, I can talk about how people fail at world building very easily because they break that visual portrait. Let's say we are in an island-based world that is hot and warm, and in comes a server bringing food to a king, and he's bringing crepes, right? And things like that. And it's like, unless you're going to talk about French colonial colonization of this island or whatnot, be careful using those things versus what things grow on islands. Oh, coconuts, cassava, like think through what's in the waters, what fish are around. Really build your surroundings and your flora and fauna of your secondary world and pull all that through in your food, in the buildings, in the transport and technology, because human beings build things out of what's in their environment, right? And so thinking about what's in the environment will dictate what is culture, what is the iconography of the world. And so I just see a lot of people who don't think through anything. And to me, that pulls me out. So I would say, think of your analog meaning I want to do, the bells was an analog for 3 places. It was Japan, France, and New Orleans. And I blended those 3 things and took the things that I liked the most and created analogs for them and made a hybrid secondary world universe. And I think through, what are my analogs? What am I borrowing? How am I going to be respectful? And how can I build a visual portrait that the reader can see what I see when I'm writing and not break it by introducing something that doesn't work for the landscape that I've built for my characters in this world. So I do a lot of, in a workbook, I have a lot of questions that I ask myself when I'm building a new world that breaks down. It's like, what is in, you know what I mean? What fish are in the sea? Is there water? What is the temperature? What is the landscape? What are some real world cultures and communities and countries that might mirror or echo those things, and pull from there when I'm building?
Love that. How do you hook your readers early in the story? What are the essential elements of a strong first page?
I think it's a really good hook. It takes me a while to get that first sentence to hook the reader. And you hook the reader with a question, not a literal question, but when you have that first line, it's a question that makes the reader say, oh, I want to read the next line. And I want to read the next line. And so I think the job of a first line, a first page, and a first chapter are the same. It's to keep the reader questioning something that brings them forward to keep turning the page. And so I think what I did was I went back to books that I devoured, books that I couldn't put down, and I looked at all of their first lines and their first paragraphs and then their first chapters. And I said, what is the question that kept me anchored into this world or into this text? And how can I mirror that in what I'm working on or what I'm writing?
How do you avoid the dreaded saggy middle?
Oh, God. Well, no one really tells you how to write a book, honestly, and how to do that. And so the first drafts of the things that I wrote early in my career had a saggy middle. And I had to teach myself how to structure. And so I think the way that you avoid a saggy middle is by learning plot structure. So I like to lay out my plots visually on a grid and lay out my plot points so that I can see them outside of the words in the manuscript and make sure that I'm hitting the beats. And so for me, now that I'm 14 books in, my favorite, I like a 4-act structure. It's really 3 acts with 2 acts in the middle, where it's act 1, act 2, part 1, then the midpoint reversals in the middle, then act 2, part 2, and act 3. And so that's my favorite structure. And I lay that out, and then I try to fill in these high points. And so the high points for me, because sometimes I can't see everything. Most of the time I can't see everything. It's the opening image. What is the status quo of the world? What is the question that I want readers to think about when they enter this first line, this first paragraph, this first chapter? What is the status quo of my characters in terms of what do they want? What do they need? What is their bruise? Who is their villain? Who is going to be thwarting them, right? So that's my first work that I do. Then I try to figure out, well, what's going to be the act one cliff is what I call it. It's at the end of those, it's usually 100 pages. It can be less depending on genre. What is the bad thing that's going to happen to the character or the thing that's going to spur them to go forward into the middle, right? And in that soggy middle, I do a lot of work. I think through what is my midpoint reversal. I think through what are like 3 to 5 bad things that I can do to my character and how they're going to respond in that middle. And then I make sure that I know what my climax is, because your climax is the end of your soggy middle. And we're trying to get to that. And we have to ratchet up to that. So it's sort of like all the bad stuff starts to happen. It's like 3 or 4 bad things happen. And then we get to the climax. You're like, oh no, is my character going to make it? The dark night of the soul, right? And so I just do a lot of structure work. And the only way that I learned how to do this was by breaking other people's books. So I took books that I loved, books that I thought I want my book to be like, and I broke them in the same way that I just discussed. I read them. I made a plot chart of everything that happened in those books and where and when along that chart. And then I studied it. And I did it for 10 to 15 books until I figured out a rhythm that I could apply to my own work to avoid the soggy middle. And so if you can do it for a TV show as well, you can do it for a movie, you can do it for another book. And it's a fruitful exercise to see, oh, here's where I got hooked. Here's where I was stressed out. Here's where you know what I mean? Like I couldn't put it down. You can really identify it when you get out of the words and break the book into its parts. I did this with series as well. In order to learn how to write a series, I read several series and I broke every single book down in its parts and watched how the writer brought things forward from books 1 all the way to the end. No, I was like, they just don't teach you how to do this. So I felt like I needed to teach myself.
Love that. And what makes a compelling ending?
Oh, well, it depends. If it's a standalone versus in a series, I think the ending answers the question that you posited in the beginning. And if it's just a standalone, you have to think through that. A book to me is like a meal. The first bite should be just as delicious as the last bite and should leave that sort of like, wow, that was good. And so for me, sometimes it takes me until my very last draft to be able to write the ending because I never know my endings usually. This last book that I wrote in the Marveler series was the first time I knew the ending because it's the 3rd book in a series. It's sort of like the act 2, part 2 of a series arc. So it had to be like really devastating. So I had to earn that. But I think you have to think through where you want to leave your characters in a satisfying thing. But genre constraints will also tell you how you're going to leave them. If it's a romance, it needs to be happily ever after. So you know what the ending's going to be. It tells you, or happily for now. So it all depends on also what you're writing.
And if it's a series?
As a series for me, I like for the central conflict of the first novel to be wrapped up, but new questions have emerged so that oh, shoot, the drama's not over. Just the first question that was posited on page 1 or in the first chapter has been answered, but it has led to even more questions. So we got to read book 2.
Love that. Love that. Do you have any tips for writing deep POV?
For writing what?
Deep POV.
What's that?
Deep point of view.
Deep point of view.
Yeah. Just like helping people get immersed in the head of your character.
Oh, okay. So first person and third person close are like the closest that you can get to that point of view. And the thing that I think that's missing for a lot of people when they're writing point of view, especially multiple point of view, is thinking about how your unique character thinks and how they speak. Each human being on this planet has verbal tics and has different ways of speaking. And I think I do a lot of eavesdropping when I go and eat alone or on the New York subway of how people talk to each other and what they say and what they don't say. And I think really making a verbal lexicon for your character. Does this person think in staccato beats or think in long, languid sentences? Are they anxious? Do they repeat things over and over again as a way to for comfort? right? Putting all of that in your point of view creates a character that is real and rich. Do they always, if your character is greeted and they say, hi, how are you? Is their first inclination to lie and say that they're fine when they're not fine, right? And creating that internal dialogue. Also, I think people suffer from not letting us know how this character's body is feeling. Are they sweating? Are they anxious? Is their heart like knock against their chest? Are they feeling queasy? Are they feeling like they want to explode, right? Like giving us those visual anchors to also understand how the character feels moving through the world. So I think thinking about your character as a person, as people, channeling other people, eavesdrop, steal from real life to deepen your point of view.
Love that. What makes a good middle grade novel?
Middle grade is my favorite. I love it so much. It's so much fun. I think for middle grade readers, people assume that it's easier to write for middle grade. It's actually harder because middle grade readers will be like, this sucks, this is boring. And so I understanding what the middle grade reader is and remembering who you were when you were 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And versus the YA reader and the YA person is concerned with self. Who am I in the world in relation to all of the people around me, right? How do I feel in my body? How do I feel about my changing body? Middle grade is outward. It's adventure. It's kid in the world trying to figure out the world versus teen trying to figure out who they are internally within the world. And I think understanding that the developmental needs of middle grade and who that middle grade reader is will help you write one. And I also think short chapters, big adventure, or even if it's a more of a contemporary story, just a kid with big feelings. There's big feelings that are outward versus inward at that time because they are trying to figure out their own voice and figure out who they are. I got lucky because I was a K-8 librarian and teacher for so long that I was around middle grade students. And so I find it so much easier to write because I also feel frozen at that age. I read somewhere that like writers write to the age that they feel like they're stuck in. And I still feel 11 most of the time where I'm like, wait, what is a deductible? What are taxes? Mom, can you help me with this? Like I still feel like an 11-year-old that is like, I just want to read my book and not, you know what I mean, and be left alone. So that's where I feel like I'm frozen. So I love middle grade.
Love that. Love that. Your stories have also been adapted for the screen. Tiny Pretty Things became a Netflix series. The Obamas are doing Blackout. Are they doing Whiteout too? Or just Blackout?
Not yet, but hopefully.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the option process and how that happened?
Sure. I mean, Tiny Pretty Things was definitely a disaster. Now that it's like done, I can like be really honest about it. Wasn't involved. It was sort of like, oh, we'll give you money to consult, but we really don't want you to consult. Here's a signed screenplay of the first episode and our signatures, and here's your check type of thing. So what I learned through the process and the way that it works, you write a book. Hopefully, if you have a film agent, your film agent's sending it out, or sometimes Hollywood studios come to you. And so with Tiny Pretty Things, I believe someone, a production company went to HarperCollins, had a relationship with HarperCollins and was like, we really like this book. We want to make it into a TV show. And look, these are all champagne problems. It's great to have your imagination translated to the small screen or the big screen. It's just that when they don't actually make something that is representative of your book, you have to sort of live with the consequences of that, which is what I have to do. And so they made so many changes. It's a PG-13 book. It's pretty PG. And they made it TVMA. They put it full of sex. And so that was like a little bit frustrating because all of the mad fans and mad people that watch it can't find the people who wrote on the show. They can always just find me. They can always just find the writers and yell at them and call them pedophiles and all of that stuff. So we got like eaten up quite a bit. But I learned that now I have to be extra involved in anything that has my name on it. and in anything that is adapted. So now I'm an executive producer on all of my work. If they want it adapted, that's the rule. And they have to keep the integrity of my characters. I was very upset with what they did to the Black girl in Tiny Pretty Things, changing her whole backstory, making it very traumatic and, and all of that. So I learned a lesson. It's all, it's the dream to have an adaptation, but the dream now that I've had one, that adaptation didn't sell any books. The dream is to sell the books. It didn't sell many books at all because it didn't capture the spirit of the text. So people didn't feel like they needed to read the book because it was so, so different. And because it was TVMA, the publisher couldn't market the TV show to teens because it would go violate COPPA laws. So again, we didn't sell any books. So the point for me going forward, if you're going to adapt my work, it needs to be adapted well so that I can sell some books. Because that's why I'm here. I'm here for the books.
Love that. So how did you find out about the Obama's optioning blackout? And have they started any of that yet? Or
yes. So I'll tell you the story and then tell you the updates. Mm-hmm. So it's a very good story in that I had to take like 36 meetings back to back over the course of a week. It was brutal, but also champagne problems where people wanted to work on the book and adapt the book. And these were producers. And so we had signed up with one production team, Temple Hill. They've done Twilight and they did Angie's Hate You Give and tons of, I think, The Fault in Our Stars and all of those things. So they were one producer and we were looking for, there's supposed to be two, a team. And we had been talking to one other production company. And then my film agent at the time called me. I was in New Orleans at the time doing research for Marvelers. And she said, I need you to sit down. And I was like, what do you mean sit down? She was like, I just need you to sit down. I need to tell you something. And then I need you to call everyone. I was like, okay. So I sat down and she was like, okay. She was like, well, we've been looking for that second partner and you've been talking to everyone. It's like the Obamas would love to produce Blackout. And I was like, you mean Michelle Obama, Barack Obama? And she was like, yes. And she was like, how do you feel? Do you want to say yes? I was like, do I want to say yes? How quickly can I say yes? And she was like, okay, I need you to call everyone. And so then I proceeded to, I called Ashley Woodfolk. I think she was napping and she would not pick up the phone. And I was like, oh my God, right? Then I call Angie. Angie's driving. And I said, I need you to pull over because I don't want you to get in an accident. She's like, what's going on? And so I tell her and she starts screaming at the top of her lungs. Nick Stone, I told her, I said, you need to lay down before I call you about this. Lay down. And she did. And then she was flipping out. And then Tiffany was like, you're lying. She just kept saying, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying. And I was like, you going to tell your mom? She was like, no, so she can tell all of Jamaica. And then Nikki was just like crying. Because Nikki's our little softie. So it was like a beautiful thing to like get to tell everyone that they were going to be involved. And so right now we had a showrunner and then we had a script and Mrs. Obama had some feedback. And so now we have a new showrunner. We're about to have a new showrunner. And so hopefully we'll have a script. Writers are going to be auditioning for it very soon in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll have a new script, hopefully in the spring, so that they can start opening up a room and getting that going for the summer.
And is the auditions going to be like public? Like I know some screenwriters who
I think so.
Got their MFAs that might want to audition and stuff.
Absolutely. Okay. I don't know because I'm not a screenwriter. I don't know where they post jobs or post all those things, but for sure the word will get out that they're looking for, writers for the Blackout TV series. I mean, they did the same thing when we had a different showrunner last year.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So
I was so excited for you.
Thank you.
Like, I text you, like when I first heard about it late, and I text you and I cursed in the text. I was so excited. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm fired now.
No, I love it. It's so exciting.
I mean,
It
dude,
is.
I was just so excited.
It is exciting, and it feels like something that could be, Hollywood never feels real, but this one feels like it it can it can be real. So,
What are you most proud of out of all your many accomplishments?
oh God, what am I most proud of? I think I'm most proud of my the authors that I've worked with that have been able to go on and like have multiple books. So I'm looking at Kwame Mbalia, who's now passing the torch. Hit the Tristan Strong series, and then we did the Last Gate of the Emperor series. He opened his it did so well that Disney gave him his own imprint, and now he's publishing other Black writers and following in those footsteps of making a table that our community can sit at. And that's the point. That's why I do what I do, right? It's so that because we can only count on us to take care of us, that we do what we can to take care of each other in that way. So I'm very proud of that. And just when I look at the books and the writers that are like, oh my gosh, like I just sold my third book to the same editor. I love her still, that kind of thing.
Mhm. What advice do you have for debut authors who are waiting their first book's release?
Oh, write another thing.
Okay.
So debut anxiety makes you feel unwell emotionally. And so it's channeling all of that anxiety into something new because hopefully you're focused on having a long career. And while something else is baking, you can be working on the new thing, mixing up the new ingredients, mixing up the new thing to work on. So it's working on the new thing and also realizing that everything is out of your control. There's nothing you're going to be able to do online that's going to sell your book. It's all in the hands of the publisher. You can be a great partner to them and be game for making videos and doing all that stuff, but it's the publisher's responsibility to market the book. You have done your job, which is to write the book, and now you write the next book.
Love that. Love that. Can you tell us about your work with authors or against book bans?
Sure. I just joined the national board to help them get organized. And we are just realizing, we've realized for a while that these busybody book banners, that's what I call them, have a lot of time on their hands and they're attacking marginalized creators. And the book bans have really set our children's book industry back. After We Need Diverse Books came, we saw an upswing of books featuring marginalized characters and from marginalized writers really lift. And the book banners, because when we have great progress, always resets. And so I think the book banning is where we are seeing the reset, which sucks. And so I've been working with the wonderful people at Authors Against Book Bans to create programs and to create initiatives to fight back against the nonsense of banning books. And so we have a lot of cool things that we're going to be rolling out and so that people can get involved in their local communities because it's a local issue that then turns stateside and then, all over the United States. So we're
How could we help if we wanted to?
you can sign up to be part of your local chapter. So every single state has a chapter for Authors Against Book Bans, and you can come and volunteer and sign up on the website for your local chapter. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, can you post this graphic? Can we all, call our senators and say these things? And so there are local chapters that you can get involved in, which we always need the help because the more we work together, the more we can face these annoying book banners who aren't reading the books because they don't read.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Do you guys have any questions for Dhonielle?
I forgot there were people watching because we were just doing our thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had one. I was just interested about book packaging and how do you get into something like that? Does that come out of having published several of your own books and then that opens the door for it? Or I'm just curious of how you would get started.
Get started as a writer who wants to write within.
No,
Right.
like how do you package books to sell to editors? Like how does that, I guess it's the idea is new to me. So I'm curious of how how do you get into the door with editors do you set up a relationship with them with your own work and then sell ideas?
I didn't do it that way. I know that there are some writers that have done it that way. I worked on a book that represented what I felt like the company represented. And I found an agent that wanted to represent me and, and the company and its projects. And then I took meetings with editor after that book sold, which was Tiny Pretty Things. After that book sold, and we were like, oh, this is a thing. It works. It did well. It sold in an auction. I was able to package more things. The next one that I packaged was Love Sugar Magic, which was a middle grade series featuring a little girl who is a kitchen bruja in small town Texas, based off of one of my students. I was able to also go, my agent was able to go to different editors and say, look at what this person is doing. They are also a writer themselves. They also, you know what I mean, is trying to help the diversity initiatives in publishing, and they are packaging. And so most editors know, especially on the children's side, not the adult side, on the children's side, know exactly what it is. And so I was able to get in slow and steady. It took me a long time though, like one project at a time with different editors to build up to all of these books. So it was sort of a slow and steady through showing that I'm a writer and that I have proof of concept, meaning that I have these high concept ideas. And I had an agent that really believed in the mission and believed in me, and would go and call editors and say, you should pay attention to this. You should meet her. You should talk to her about what she's working on. So that's how I got in.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive just listening to how you persevered, and you have to in this profession, but it's it always looks like overnight success, and you can see how you really persevered and used every avenue that you had.
No, I appreciate it. It's just grit and stubbornness. And because I was around kids every day, and those kids will keep you honest and keep you anchored. And they're like, why isn't there a book like this? Why isn't there a book like that? And that's where I got a lot of my early ideas. Even Love Sugar Magic came from a little kid who was like, I want to read about witches. And I got all the witch books. She was like, no, what about brujas? And there was not a single book that featured a bruja in 2009, 2010. And I thought, this is so unfair. This is not okay. And so that's where I got to work. So. But
Love that.
I also,
Anybody else?
Yeah, I had a question about the packaging too. I was wondering, like, were some of the biggest hurdles that you came across in starting the company, and how you built relationships with publishers for them to be interested in the projects?
Sure. The biggest hurdle was that all of my projects featured marginalized kids, religious minorities, BIPOC kids, queer kids, disabled kids, neurodivergent kids. Like that was the biggest hurdle at the time because it was 2011 and no one really, there were diversity movements from the 70s trying to get multicultural literature on the shelves, but everyone said that it didn't sell. Everyone said that kids weren't reading these things. And so that was the hurdle. The hurdle was to get them to see that you can have a highly commercial book that just centers kids from the margins. And it still can just be an adventure about a kid who wants to slay a dragon or go to ballet school or, is making a mess in their parents' bakery. But it just happens to feature a kid that is not usually featured. And so once I was able to present the material in that way, and really, I had a mentor during that time at Scholastic. Her name is Andrea Davis Pinkney. And she has been publishing and writing these sorts of books for decades. And I asked her, how can I be successful? And she said, make it look expensive and make it look beautiful so that it can't be resisted and it's irresistible. And so that's what I worked on. I worked on making sure that everything that I send out was a knockout. It looked good. The characters were amazing. The plots were amazing. It was unexpected and twisty and fun, and really understood the market. And I worked hard on that because of that advice, because I knew everyone wanted to say no because, it's featuring the kid with ADHD. It's featuring the kid in the wheelchair. It's featuring the kid, you know what I mean? The Black kid or the kid from here or there. And so they can say no to that very easily. So my 30s were full of painful, and late 20s, painful, like meticulous work to present the best of what I was and what I am and my ideas.
Your book boxes are fabulous, by the way.
Thank you.
When you send out work, when I was just interested that you said make it look beautiful. Are you sending out like Word documents, or are you adding graphics or anything to go along with what you're sending out?
I'm sending out a fully designed proposal that has been made by a designer. So they look gorgeous. They look really pretty, so that if they travel around, if they are leaked, they set the tone for the company, they set the tone for the writer, for the piece of fiction. They look really luxe and expensive. They're not, it costs, but it's one of the costs that I really believe in, because I know that anything that I send out is going to be judged triple than what another counterpart of mine in the industry might send out. So I'm very big on that, aesthetics and making sure things look pretty and expensive, because people like to be involved in that. So
I had a question.
Sure.
Do you have advice from authors who are marginalized groups themselves, but writing about marginalized kids, finding resources and the people to make those connections? Because right now, I'm nowhere near, queering or anything, but I'm writing a queer Jewish neurodivergent fantasy series. Well, hopefully a series. I'm on the first book. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that the incoming administration wants to charge people like me as criminals for just writing these books. So I know some publishers are pushing back, but it's also really hard to tell which agents and publishers are going to be safe.
I think joining Authors Against Book Bans, we have a Discord, will be very helpful for you, because then you can talk about these things with real writers who are querying, writers who are published from all levels, and talk about your concerns and learn from them. These are the agents who are safe. These are the publishers that I'm working with that are safe, right? From other people who are doing similar things, right? I kind of like, you should talk to Alex London. He's queer and he's Jewish and he writes fantasies and blah, 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 and he will tell you, we keep our eye on that. And I think it's about being in community with other people that are like you. And that's how we stay safe, is by talking and sharing that information. So that might be a helpful first step, but also we cannot obey in advance. You need to write the story. There are so many kids that need to read this book and deserve to have this book. And these 4 years are going to go, but you're going to still be writing these stories, and those kids are still here and need it. So also not allowing the fear to get you to censor yourself, and just know that we just have to write our stories and we have to push. And publishers, when we think about the last time this idiot was in office, right? They swung towards doubling down on diversity. And we had New York Times lists that were full of diversity, all kinds of it. So we have to just push against it. And I know there's so many organizations that are going to be doing that. So I think come join us at Authors Against Book Bans so that you can find your community, and so that then you can get those answers to those questions and find out who's safe for you once you get ready to query.
Yeah, I did sign up previously. Where could I find the Discord?
There'll be a Discord link that's usually in the newsletter that goes out.
Okay.
So we have a monthly newsletter, and then there's a link to the Discord where you can show up. And then JD, I'll send it to you, and then you can send it out to everyone, like a sign up, and then you should be able to join the Discord.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And
no problem.
Just real quick, I want to say this is I'm internally freaking out. My kids and I are huge fans of the Marvelers.
Oh, thank you so much.
I run a huge secular homeschool group that focuses on diversity and marginalized groups. And we have a ban on She Who Must Not Be Named. And
Excellent.
people bring that up. One of the first things I always recommend is the Marvelers. So I'm internally freaking out right now. You are a huge group.
I appreciate it. Thank you for giving my world a chance. It's really hard. I get a lot of hate mail from her fans and a lot of death threats from her fans. So I appreciate it. I didn't know that like centering, queer kids and marginalized kids in a fantasy school like magic school would get me death threats. But here we are. But no, thank you for giving the series, a fair shake. My students asked me for it and I'm just writing them as they are messy and fun and, so I
It's a
appreciate
wonderful
it.
series, and I think it has so many kids see themselves in it.
I'm so glad. I wanted a series like this my whole life. So I'm just writing what I want, where I would want to go to magic school. So where everyone is, it's better that way. We're all there together having a good time and solving mysteries. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice to meet you.
And Seth definitely means that, because in the Discord, when I first posted that you were coming, like when we first confirmed like a month ago, that was what he said. That's what he commented under the picture. He was like, "Oh my God, my kids love that."
Oh, I love that. I'm so excited. Book 3 comes out March 4th. I'm just finishing up book 4, so I'm very excited. Yay.
Awesome, awesome. Any other questions, you guys?
Something I was wondering.
Oh, is this my Sierra? This is my
Yes,
love.
this is your Sierra. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
But yes, so
Let me be professional.
something
I love you.
I was wondering was, and I've been struggling with this,
Yeah.
maybe somebody else is. Do you ever get stuck with a story? Like, if you do, what happens and how do you kind of move past it? I basically been writing the same book for 2 years now, and even I'm sick of it.
Look, there's something there though, right? That keeps bringing you back. I also love you so
It is.
much.
Yes.
It's so funny. I'm trying to like reboot my newsletter, and this was a question that someone asked me that I'm trying to answer right now. Like, what do you do when you feel like your manuscript's a mess, you're stuck in the mud with it? And so what I do, because it happens with every single book that I write. Every single book that I write, I hate it at some point and I want to throw it in the trash and never look at it again. And I'm like, this is trash, this is awful. And I had to decide, I was like, oh, this is just my process. I write and write and write, and I'm like, this is awful, this is awful. And so what I usually do is I get out of the words themselves and I zoom out and I will make those charts that I was talking about. I take an inventory. I'm like, what is actually in my book, chapter by chapter? What happens? I make a huge chart of what's happening, either sticky notes on the wall or I, chart it out. And then I take a minute to sort of say, okay, like what is going wrong here? Where's the problem? And when I'm away from the words, because when I'm in the document, I play around. I'm playing around. There's an adverb, delete, add a sentence here and there. I'm pruning versus doing a renovation. And I think when you're stuck in the mud, it just means to me that your book needs a renovation, that you need to reimagine it. You need to renovate the house. And there's some furniture that you can keep, but you might have to blow up that foundation a little bit and change things. And so once I've taken inventory and made my chart, my like war board, I will watch movies or watch TV shows that would be comp titles for my book or what I hope that it's as good as. And then I borrow things. I say, okay, well, I guess I could use something twisty like this in my book. And I'll go back to the war board and start moving stuff around or reimagining it based on things that I think are similar and that are really good, right? And become a magpie with it and change it up. And then once I've redone the things that I think for this first round that are keeping me from finishing or that I really think are bad, I start a new document and I start copying and pasting chapter by chapter and making my changes. That way I get out of the manuscript that has 100,000 words in it. That's a mess. That's irking me like an eyesore. And I start a new draft. And sometimes I'll do a different font to trick my brain to say, this is a different book. And then I start changing it little by little so it doesn't feel overwhelming. And that's how I do it, because I really don't think, I think every book you can fix it. It's just about making sure that you're ready to really fix it. And Sierra, we just need to talk so you can tell me what's going on. So I'll text you, girl.
Yeah. I'll let you know because it's a lot. It's my fourth iteration. But I loved like the watching comp titles. Don't give me another excuse to watch Gone Girl again. Don't.
Look, watch it, honey, and then pull out the thing you're like, oh, I really liked this. How can I
Yes.
create that same thing with my characters and put it in your book?
Yes, love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we'll talk through your book too.
Anybody else?
Don't be shy.
I'm just curious. You sound you have so much going on. How do you break up your day and like your week to like stay on point?
To stay alive and to stay
Yeah.
healthy. Yes, I do have a lot going on, but let me see. How do I do it? I actually get a lot of sleep and I exercise because I need both in order to stay balanced. And so usually what I do on a good day, because some days they just go to hell and it just doesn't happen, is I'm not a morning person. So I'm a night owl, which is awful. I wish I could be a morning person. I try to have the first 2 days, 2 hours of the when I wake up to be sort of me getting myself ready for the day. Have my cup of tea, my whatever I'm having for breakfast, and thinking through what are the to-do lists for today, not just the week. Like I make a weekly to-do list and a monthly to-do list, but it's like, what do I need to get accomplished today? And so those first 2 hours, I try to keep it quiet and calm for the most part, no matter when I get up. And I do my creative work first because I think my brain is sharpest whenever I first fueled up, right? And I do that creative work and then I take a break to eat and then I switch over in the afternoon or the early evening to the boring stuff that I don't want to do, right? The admin, the emails, all of those things, and do that in that sort of deflated energy doldrums period because that I can do on autopilot. So I segment my day in sort of creative work when I'm first up and fresh, and then admin and stuff in the afternoons. And then I use every Sunday evening to get ready for the week. Whether it's sitting down and writing out, what do I need to get done this week? What are the calls that I have? Like getting a real preview. And then, because I get the Sunday evening blues, just like I did when I was a teacher. And this was the only way that I could combat that to where I'm like, I don't want to go to work. I have so much to do, all those things. These kids are going to be waiting for me at 7 a.m. talking about what's up, you know? I try to get my mind right on Sunday afternoons. And I walk on the treadmill quite a bit just because my doctor is harassing me, but also because it does help me sleep better because I'm a person that has a little bit of ADHD and also just anxiety. So I have to get it out. I have to get that anxiety out. And so sometimes I'll walk and I'll like write through all of the things that I need to do. In a voice note as I'm on the treadmill, things like that too. But yes, there is quite a bit to do and I segment my day a lot. But sometimes I just don't get it done. That's okay too. We are not in the ER. I am not in the ER. There is not a kidney on ice. So I have to remind myself that I'm not going to stress myself out because I used to do that early in my career and I got really, really sick. And I also am immunocompromised and I cannot allow myself to be run into the ground. Otherwise, all of my conditions get flared and I'll come out of remission. And so I have to really stay balanced. So if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. We'll try the next day. But yes, I am overscheduled. Something I'm working on.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, I'll give you a fun fact. You might have already known it now because I told the editor after all was said and done. Right after I got the book deal, I got hit by a car. And I was afraid to tell you because I was like, she's going to find somebody else because I'm in the hospital. I'm sick. So
I am going to fly down there.
Well.
I'm going to fly down there and fight you. I'm going to have you meet me outside. Are you kidding me? I would have sent
I'm
you
serious.
stuff.
I was in the hospital for 6 days. I had a blood clot in my lung from the accident. It was a lot, but yeah.
I would have
But I made it through. All is well.
done that. We would have just supported you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You're okay? Everything's okay? You promise me I don't need to come down there?
Yeah, everything's okay now, but yeah. I'm weird.
Ooh, we're gonna fight. We are going
But I wasn't
fight.
late on my deadlines.
No, ma'am, you were not. No, ma'am, you were not, but you could have been. We could have gotten more time. Remember, I get to be the bad guy. You get to be
Okay.
perfectly protected and beautiful and amazing. I get to be the bad guy. Oh my gosh. You wait until I tell on you. Yeah, I'm gonna tell Haneen. She's gonna lose it.
Yep. So
I'm
as you
glad
guys
you're
heard earlier,
feeling.
thank you. So you guys heard earlier, I met her. I was doing an interview, and then at the end of the interview, she was talking about her companies. You know how you shoot your shot. I was like, oh well, all right. And I sent her what I had, and she liked it, and the rest is history. So if any of you guys here want to shoot your shot, right?
Please send me stuff. I like to meet people through these kinds of things. Do you want to tell them about your amazing book, Heart's Gambit?
Yes. My book, Heart's Gambit, comes out in winter of 2026. And it's about these magical time traveling Black people and this forbidden love and this duel to the death and all kinds of cool, fun things. It's kind of like the Outlander series meets like Caravel and the Night Circus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And these two characters are so messy and so lovely and amazing. And I think everyone's going to root for their love story, but also seeing Black people time travel. And deal with a curse.
Mm-hmm.
Very
It
excited.
was really fun to write.
It's awesome. And we're just going to start. Hopefully the cover stuff is about to kick up. So you're going to start seeing some concepts for that from your editor, and we'll go from there. So it's happening. It's real.
Exciting.
And so yes, you've been one of my most amazing people to work with, and I feel blessed that I even get to know you. So
Thank you. Same.
yes.
Definitely same.
I can't believe you got hit by a car and I didn't know, and I didn't get to spoil you and send you flowers and everything. Now you're getting all this shit afterwards.
I was scared because you work for something and you dream about it for so long, and then you get the opportunity, and then I was like, oh no, what if she finds out I'm sick, and then she's like, on to the next person. So I was like, I said nothing.
Never. I've had like literally some of the writers are like, I think my baby's coming early. I'm gonna be giving birth. And we're like, great, we're gonna bump the book. We'll all hands on deck. We got this. Get this baby safely here. Things like that. Don't you ever worry. I got your back. Always.
Awesome. I have been trying to do some interviews to fight back on the book ban stuff too.
Good.
So far, people haven't been receptive yet. I've pitched, but I haven't had anything going on yet. So I'm thinking once what happens,
yes,
they'll be more receptive at that point. But yeah.
Everyone's bracing for what's going to go down. And I think
exactly
when this stuff starts happening, now we have to put the shields up. We've got to do the work. And I think people are going to start. I think everyone's in denial and we're like just hunkering down. And I think you'll be able to get more interviews on this. And I'm happy to help you if you want me to be like email for you or, connect you to some people.
That'd be great.
I did actually
thank you so much.
I did have another quick question, specifically about K Creative.
Sure.
Do you guys work with authors who have, I guess, less social media presence and want less, I guess, to be out in the public? So to kind of preface this, so I have agoraphobia and high anxiety. So that's been a challenge for me with working and like thinking of a future in this space is because like I'm not going to be the person who's going to be doing book tours and things like that. So I know finding a company that supports that is going to be a big thing. So is K Creative a company that does support that kind of situation?
Absolutely. I mean, I believe in, and Electric Postcard is the same. That's my YA crossover and adult market side. And then I also have my short fiction platform, Chain Letter, if you ever want to write for that. Yes, it's really about the publisher. We set the tone with the publisher about what this writer can and cannot do. You can do events from your home. Here we are on Zoom, right? I do so many Zoom, what do you call them? Oh my God, I'm blanking out. With schools. I do so many school visits via Zoom with so many kids. That doesn't mean that you can't reach kids and you can't do what you need to do. So, and we've done it. We did it through the pandemic. They know how to do a virtual book tour that has been tried and true and tested. So I think it's about finding the right editor partner and the right publisher that understands what you need and what you can and cannot do. I think it's the same thing if they were publishing someone who used a mobility aid. Are you going to require them to go to 18 cities without any rest and things like that? No. You work with a partner, they understand your limitations and what you need. And we would ensure that as well. So we would welcome that.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep. Anybody have any final questions? No? Well, I just want to thank you so much, Dhonielle. It's always great to see you and hear from you.
Yes, thank you for asking me and for having me. You are the best. You're one of my favorite people. And
Yeah, same.
everyone on here, I would love to stay in touch, and you can find my information, hopefully, online, and our submissions and stuff, and ask any questions and all those things. And yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank
Yes,
you so
thanks.
much. Thank you, Dhonielle, and thank you, JD, for organizing. This was really great, really helpful.
Yay! Have a good
Awesome.
Thursday and happy weekend. Happy early weekend.
Yep. Happy early weekend. Bye.
JD, I'll text you.
That wraps up today's Craft Chat Chronicles with JD Mayo. Thanks for joining us. If you liked the episode, please comment, subscribe, and share. For show notes, writing workshops, and tips, head to jdmayo.com. That's jdmayo.com. While you're there, join JD's mailing.
Are you struggling to keep your writing organized? Trust me, I've been there. I want to introduce you to Scrivener, the ultimate program for all writers. You can outline, draft, and even edit all in one place. Whether it's your next novel, screenplay, or even thesis, Scrivener helps you stay focused and finish strong. Scrivener adapts to your workflow. From your first draft to the final edit, it's a writer's secret weapon. Click on the link below and get started on your Scrivener writing journey today.